Welcome. We often hear about the process of ideation in design thinking or ideation in lean business or in other areas of business, particularly in product design. But what does ideate mean? And could you explain ideate to someone? Ideate means to form ideas or concepts. Most innovations start out as ideas or concepts. And this is why ideate is really important. Because typically in a business situation, a person or a team has an idea and has created a concept that envisages the future. And that vision could be for an idea or an improvement in some kind of workplace system. It could be a new app, a new product, a new sales process. It could even be a new offer or something that only exists as a concept. And when we ideate, we're trying to work out ways to actually make our vision come alive. As such, ideate is a verb. It's a process in how we take that vision that we have for the future and we bring it to life. We take that idea or that concept and we bring it to life. Let's look at where ideate fits in the bigger picture of design thinking. Here we have in front of you the 4D LX Grow Design Thinking Framework. And if we look at that framework, we see that we have a figure 8 before us. We see that we have the 4D Design Thinking Framework within that figure 8, which has on it discover, define, design, and do. And these are our 4 phases of design thinking that sit within the infinity framework of the learning and experience loops. We see that we have a growth mindset on the map and a design thinking toolbox. The design thinking toolbox gives us a whole range of tools that we can utilize in each of the 4 phases in the 4D design thinking framework. It also, by us going through the learning and experience loops, what happens with our growth mindset is we start to continue to work on our growth mindset. For any of you that have a growth mindset or are learning to improve your growth mindset, bottom line is it's a work in progress. We have to continually work on it so it keeps growing. Why is this important? Well, in the ideate stage, we're looking at ideate in terms of the 4 phases, and we can see that from this diagram that ideate appears in phases 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in phase 1, in the discover phase, we're doing the research that we need and that research underpins our vision that we have for the future when we create our vision board in phase 2. And in phase 3 is the actual doing of the ideation process, where we ideate, we take it through to prototyping, testing and validation process before we head to phase 4, which is when we start to market, grow it, scale it. So as you can see, ideate, while it's associated with phase 3, it actually does appear in all 4 phases. When we're looking at ideation and the process of generating ideas, compared to traditional free-forming brainstorming sessions, an ideation session is different. An ideation session is much more structured. An ideation session typically has a facilitator, And that facilitator is going to use the vision board as the anchor for these sessions, so that when we're looking at the vision board, we're looking at, does this fit with our vision or doesn't it? So we're building something that fits and or has congruency with our vision. So when the facilitator is trying to encourage those big, hairy, audacious ideas that address the vision board, they're trying to get us to think, well, how can we make this vision board come alive? What can we do? And can we build on each other's ideas? And there's a range of tools that the facilitator can use, and they'll grab those tools from the design thinking toolbox in order to facilitate the ideation session. So what the facilitator will do, the facilitator will encourage generating as many ideas or concepts as possible in a short time frame. We here at Leading Growth typically recommend about a 30-minute time frame, because after about 12 years of research in doing this, we found that 30 minutes is a really tight schedule where we can continue to energize the group, we can keep the ideas coming and flowing, we can grab synergy from those ideas, and because it is mentally tiring and mentally challenging, we sort of stop before people hit that low. And then we typically recommend to give the people or the participants in that session a break, and then we'll run another 30-minute interval. So we like to do 30-minute intervals in approximately 2 hours of time. Sometimes we'll do it in a greater time period. It depends on how many intervals that we're doing. So when we're going through the ideation process, the facilitator will share with the group rules of engagement, and the big key rule is no judgment. The facilitator will create a really comfortable environment which is conducive for creativity. Now that environment will vary depending on whether it's a physical environment, as in everybody's in the same place and physically with each other and present with each other, or whether it's a virtual environment and people are working across a video platform and working together that way. Or the third space, which is now becoming much more popular, is the phygital environment, which is a combination of the physical space as well as the virtual space, where we'll have a number of people in one or more physical localities, and then we'll have some other people, so they could be at home or in virtual offices or globally located overseas. There's many different ways that the phygital environment work, and we're finding that this is probably becoming increasingly the more popular space, but all three are valid spaces. So the facilitator will remind everyone of the vision, will share with everybody the vision, and you normally would get this information either prior to the session or at the very beginning of the session when they're doing the introduction. The facilitators will get everybody to really be clear about what the vision looks like, what the vision feels like, and so that people can get a great understanding of that to help them really come up with ideas on how that might come alive. Again, the focus of the ideation session is to generate as many concepts as possible. So in an ideation session, as I mentioned earlier, often what we'll do here at Leading Growth, we recommend this, not everybody does this, and there are multiple ways of doing this, so there's not one set way, but we will often do 4 rounds of 30 minutes, and often do a 15-minute break within each 30 minutes, and we can talk about what we would do in that break. There's a few different things that we do to ensure that the teams and the people that are involved continue to be energized and really in a creative space where they can really work on those ideas. What we typically recommend is each team is to break the groups up into small teams of between 4 to 6 people and to swap those team members around. We also recommend that the teams have people of different hierarchical structures or different levels within an organisation across different business units within an organisation, so that we have diversity in all of our teams. And what will happen is, from an ideation session, is we'll have a thing that we end up with could be a wall of ideas. This is an example here of a wall of ideas. We also have a table of ideas and a matrix of ideas, and they all have a similar outcome. So you'll end up with a multitude of ideas that are coming from everybody, and the purpose is being really transparent with those ideas and sharing with those ideas with the team members. So that after the ideation sessions, we would then move on to the next stage. And the next stage of an ideation session would be on a different day at a different time, sometimes with the same people, sometimes with different people. It does vary. And that's when we start to reduce those ideas down. So we will actually have a completely separate session for that. But what we like to do is let everybody see what is on the ideas board before we hit that session. And that's when we will reduce the ideas down to ideas that are typically feasible, viable, and desirable.